to Pod in the North, the Game of Thrones and Song by Some Fire podcast, where we discuss all our favorite and least favorite topics from both the books and the show. We got this thing handled. That's a perfect base for radio. Illegal downloading, I don't know what that is at all. It just felt like the devil was coming out of my ears. I still don't know what the hell happened. And now everybody goes silent.
Hello and welcome to the Pod in the North. My name's Howard. With me are Elizabeth, Tonya, and Fedon. This episode is an episode of lists. Lists of favourite character deaths, lists of most heart-wrenching characters, the most deserved character deaths, quite a lot of death. Best moments, best quotes, best burns. We've got a list for it. So who'd like to start off? Well, actually, I'll start off by saying how I got into Game of Thrones. So I think it was January of either 97 or 98. I was on holiday with my family just before going into the last 2 years of school, and I picked up this book. It looked pretty cool. It was the giant paperback. I thought, I haven't read a real solid fantasy for a while. Sat down at 9 o'clock and got up at about 4. And I read the entire book in one hit, and it.
I still can't believe you read it all in one, Howie. Like that's mind blowing to me.
Yeah, it was. I couldn't stop it, and then I got hold of the larger editions of A Clash of Kings and A Storm of Swords. Not that ridiculous part where they broke it into two volumes, because that's just crap. And then I got onto the waiting train for Feast for Crows and whatnot. But yeah, I've never quite managed to replicate reading one entire installment in one day. That was, yeah. I pretty much did nothing but sit in that chair and read it. It was, yeah, very mind-blowing.
And are you a show watcher as well?
I am. I had tried very hard not to be a show watcher because I was thinking, how on earth are you going to do justice to this?
Yeah.
And I saw it come out, and I had, where I was working at the time, there was at least one guy who was kind of the stereotypical misogynist, like really misogynistic, shallow type guy who loved it. I thought, okay, I'll just skip over that. And then my girlfriend, a few years later, said, "Oh, hey, what's this Game of Thrones thing?" And that was that. So we grabbed it and watched first season, and I thought, okay, no, this is a decent interpretation. And then it was very, very hard biting my tongue when important moments would happen.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, this is he's totally going to confess to be sent to the wall, or oh yeah, this is a really cool wedding. There's nothing going to happen here, and So yeah, there are a few moments of pause, and then she looks over at me and says, "Did you know that was going to happen?" Not going to say anything. Not going to say anything. But yeah, it's interesting watching. And then when season 5 finished, and now we're in uncharted territory, it's fascinating watching the differences and the divergence. It's really annoying watching some of the plots get collapsed.
Yeah.
Like No Lady Stoneheart and all that.
Mhm.
or like the Vale storyline just got sort of again chopped into pieces, and not and no young Griff or any of that biz. But it's constrained as you are by 10 episodes per season, yada yada yada, and the laws of nature, it's kind of hard to do all that. But I'm pretty impressed though, and I got the Johnson bug very solidly. With season 6, but also I got like an inkling of it after season 5. Not quite sure why.
You were an intellectual, Howie. That's why.
Yeah. Thanks. Yeah, I found it on AO3, and I thought, and then along came season 6 and episode 4 in particular, and then that was it. Just thanks very much.
Who would like to provide the first list?
Well, let's start with heart-wrenching character deaths, because there's certainly enough of that. So my first one has got to be Ned. That was that was the one which really drove home the fact that this is not your typical, low fantasy. Not, if you think there's a happy ending, you haven't been paying attention. This is the part where I thought, oh shit, this is not like anything I've read for a long time. So yeah, give me that. And I remember, like, correct me if I'm wrong, it's been a while since I've read the first one, but you don't have Sansa's POV for the actual execution. You have it for afterwards.
I do believe you have it for afterwards. Yeah.
Yeah, because she remembers like how Ned's legs jumped when the axe came down and what have you, and I think that actually made it more poignant rather than her watching, because after a while there's only so much horror you can have, and eventually you're not going to emote anymore. But when she's reflecting on that, that's a really, like, Arya's one was, again, she was pressed into Yoren's chest and couldn't. But yeah, I thought that one was the one that really got me, and it still does. I mean, like, all the lore about the fact that Ned Stark, he lasted for one season and he still cast a giant shadow over the entire Stark storyline for sure. But yeah, that one got me. And then a corollary to that was the second one, which is probably not as like investor one, but I thought that Yoren's death, because that was, again, just the fact that Arya might be getting away, brackets, getting to safety, and then, oh no, actually no, none of that. And this is Yoren, who's hidden, or who's trying as much as he can as member of an order that no one really gives a shit about anymore, but doing the right thing, even just trying to keep his head down this stuff, and he still gets himself drawn up and then a sword to his neck. I thought that was quite I think it was driving the point home, maybe. Really just getting the fact that there is no straight magic salvation or quick and easy resolution, that the good guys aren't going to suddenly pull a rabbit out of their hats. And then leading into that, of course, was the Red Wedding, and that just for some more.
That one for me, Caitlyn's death in that one.
Yeah, well, because she sees Roose like suddenly at Rob's side with his dagger in his chest, what have you. And then the last is just her saying, "Don't cut my hair, don't cut my hair. It hurts so much." Then
that one still hurts to think about.
When I got to that chapter, I was in like such a reading binge, and then I just stopped, and like for a whole 2 days, I was like, I can't, because I knew what was coming, and I was just like, I just can't read it. Like, it's gonna break. Watching it was hard enough. Reading it, I just no, and it did. I sobbed, ugly, cried. The whole. It was so.
The show did it quite well. I thought that was really captured. Actually, and the corollary to that is Grey Wind. I thought Grey Wind had the most. Didn't even get the chance to be in the middle of tearing someone's throat out. No, it was chained up. A whole bunch of guys rolled up with crossbows. Bang, done. Thank you very much. That was. I mean, death is death, but I think that one just felt like it was a really shitty.
Yeah, because it's just he's such a fighter, and he's a dire wolf. Like, he's meant to fight, and then to take away his ability to defend himself or try to fight, because he's caged, shooting fish in a barrel. It's just
it was
not right.
Both Lady and him both were taken out while restrained. It just I don't know if it I don't know if it's supposed to be saying something about how the Starks were kind of knocked down.
Well, they were, because each one of them has been, except for Rob, and Caitlin, who are actually fighting, but Ned was in chains, Lady was in chains, Grey Wolf was in a pen. I think, and Lady was just...
In the books, I think it's touching that Reinald Westerling or something, that he tries to free Grey Wind and fails and is killed as well. So it's also...
That's a really good point,
Yeah.
And the fact that Lady did literally nothing, and then she got to and Micah, Micah was happened to be playing with sticks, and Joffrey being the twat that he is.
Yeah.
That's a reason why one of my favorite time traveling or do-over fix is where Joffrey gets his either shit beaten out of him at that point, or Nymeria actually does bite his hand off, and you think, okay. And I think also that one, the Micah death in particular, because, the Hound says, oh, he didn't run very far. And that really gives us this giant, huge brute of a warrior just, casually ran down and murdered this poor boy whose sole crime was to play with a highborn. There's a lot of, shit sandwich world building going on, and that was one of the other ones. I thought, this is pretty rough and tumble world.
I think ones that, like, for me that were like super heartbreaking, all the ones you mentioned, and then also for me, Marjorie's death was actually like really heartbreaking because I felt like I was there with her, and it's just like, and you could tell like she would be alive if people would have just if like the High Sparrow would have just listened to her. Like she knew what was happening, and I think that's what like, it broke my heart so much more because one, I did love her character and I liked her, but two, like she knew what was happening before it was happening. She knew the danger of what was going on.
It was such a bullshit death.
Yeah, and she didn't underestimate Cersei. It's that she was not allowed to leave, even though she should have been. She had done everything the High Sparrow had asked of her, but he wouldn't let her go when she wanted to go. And because of that, her entire family was killed. And it's just like, y'all dumbasses would have been, maybe maimed, but,
Yeah, it could have got out.
At least the majority of you, if you had left when Marjorie wanted you to leave. But nobody listens to Marjorie. Is there a heartbreaking death list if you don't mention Hodor? Because that was just some ugly crying. Some real him and Summer, like I was just like in shock and horrified with Summer dying because I honestly did not expect any more direwolves to die. Like deadass, I didn't. I thought after Ghost and Shaggy Dog, I thought they were going to be fine.
God, we haven't even got to the back half of the series yet, but yeah.
And so I was just like, Summer will be fine, and then Summer just like dies in like the most just blip of a moment way, and I was just horrified.
Yeah, run, big jump, and then smack gets hit by 10 whites. I think, right, okay, that's. Never mind the fact that he was in, they're in this mega mystical, place, learning, leveling up to, be absolutely kick-ass. And oh no, wait, they're not. No, sorry, goodbye.
And I always expected Summer to live because he's called Summer, and at the end of the book,
yes,
we have.
That's what I hope we're going to have. Yeah.
So I always thought, okay, Bran will bring Summer, and Summer has to live, and I was really shocked that he was killed off in the show. Yeah.
Well, that and Myrcella as well. That was a fairly.
Yeah.
I mean, that was more expected, but that's another case of, hey, who's this? Here's this lovely girl who's cute and sweet and pretty much has, done absolutely nothing, but because of who she is, bang, thank you very much. Just that.
Even if you expect the death, it can still be heartbreaking. I always expected Rob to die, and nevertheless, the Red Wedding really had me crying and very emotional. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think it was because I think George said at one point that he made Rob such an unstoppable force. The only way for him the only way to beat him was through treachery, because you couldn't actually catch him on the battlefield. Or he was smart enough and cunning enough to be like when he routed the Lannisters and what have you. But the only way around it was to break guest right and also weaken the social fabric a shitload by just by the by. Thanks Tywin and Walder. That's totally a it's not like there's not that they setting themselves up for a great fall there.
Yeah, I think Myrcella made me cry, like, broke my heart too, also because, like, she finally, like, acknowledged, she's the only one of, Jaime and Cersei's children who acknowledged Jaime as her father, which is something you can tell, like, Jaime always really wanted, but he was never, he was never allowed to treat his children because that would have cost them all their lives. And so he always, had a distance from them growing up. And for him to finally come to her and then her not only tell him like that she had figured it out and that she accepted and loved him, And she was coming back to like with such a happiness for all to just like fall apart right in Jamie's hands. Like that was just so awful. Like it just, I was like, damn, that just like struck me right in the heart, right in the feels.
Such a short moment of happiness, and then it crumbled. Yeah. Well, Shireen was very sad. Shireen was burned by Stannis.
Yeah, that was properly horrific. That one, I thought that was.
And her terrible mother, who still was unhinged by her death, which she of course consented to in the first place, and it was really devastating. Yeah. And I thought, okay, well, what does this so-called king do for his so-called destiny? And he kills his own child, and she's such a sweet little girl, everybody to read.
Sometimes I still just like block it out of my mind that it even happened, and I live in a happy place where she's not dead. So.
Well, and the thing is, it's not until that moment with Davos and Melisandre and Jon, and Melisandre tries to justify and says, "Oh, we were dying. We need this. We had to do something." And he said, "For what? You lost anyway. There was no," and that really drove home the fact that it was, apologies if anyone here is highly religious, but it was blind religious zealotry.
Yeah.
For no.
I think it shows that the human sacrifice doesn't get you anywhere, and I doubt this will be the solution for the White Walkers or any problem. So,
yeah. And it's also just like, I feel like it also like really drives home the point of that burning people alive is not a good thing in the universe ever.
Yeah. Like, well, it's not a good thing anywhere.
And maybe in like a different story where you could maybe try to make that a good thing.
Well, in Harry Potter, the witches are always tickled by the flames if they're burned. So
yeah, it's definitely like, it just helps to hammer in this point of how horrifying a death it is and how awful and terrible it is. And so I think that's like a really big thing that a lot of people just like want to brush over for certain reasons.
Yeah.
Wonder what reasons those are.
But it really just drives that point home to me, especially like when you see the anger and disgust Davos has when he finds out what happened. Like, I think that man would ever support someone who also burns people alive, just like crackhead jumped out. But,
And I think deep down, Melisandre knows that it's not right, because when she came back to Castle Black and Davos asked her, "Where's Shireen? Where's the princess?" and she just doesn't answer. If she really would have been convinced that it was right to burn her, she could have just told Davos, but she didn't. So I think she knows deep down that it's not the right thing to do.
I actually know. So I just did one more heartbreaking death. So we've got we've got Oberyn in his matchup with the Mountain.
Oh.
That was because thought, yes, finally he's got some recompense. So I got.
That was actually the first episode I ever watched.
Oh, really?
Oh, wow.
Because I watched it at my friend's house, who's like super into Game of Thrones, and it was like the day the episode was airing. She's like, "Do you mind if I watch this?" And I'm like, "I don't care. I mean, I'm not going to know what's going on, but whatever." And watching that, first of all, I was just like, did they really just dead ass show this man's head getting caved in? Holy, what the fuck?
Yeah.
So I didn't even know the character then, and I was so upset for him because I was just like, oh my god, like no, like he admitted it and he'd done everything right, but like just that last like wanting him to admit to everything is what cost him his life, and that just sucked so bad. I
mean, and yes, the Mountain didn't come out unscathed, but case with yes, you got him. Just step the fuck away before you have your victory speech. It's like number 4 in the evil overlord list. I will not gloat until my opponent is actually dead.
Or at least out of arm's reach.
Yes. Keep in mind the fact that this arm is twice as long as any other man's because he's freakishly big.
Twice as far away. Be on the other side of the stadium, before you start going on with your victory lap.
No, the other heartbreaking one for me was Rickon, but that was pretty much ordained. I thought, oh, maybe not. And I thought, no, there's no way this is going to work. And yet, still, the episode managed to wind me up to the point where it was actually a shock. I thought, thank you, director. That was marvelous. Marvelous build-up.
It was just so sad. He was so close to his brother.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That was really hard, yeah.
So let's be real. Even if John had reached him, I don't think Rickon would have made it out alive from that, giant pile of bodies and shit that everything happened.
Well, yeah, there would have just been like a hail of arrows too. So right, make the be like the final scene of 300. Okay, archers.
Speaking of Rickon, moving to satisfying deaths, definitely number 1 for me was Ramsay. Yeah. I was pumped to watch that bitch die. I didn't even want John to stop. I just wanted Sansa to come and start wailing on him with John. Really, just both of John wailing on him, Sansa stomping on him. That would have been good enough for me. I would have, but then to have him be eaten alive by his dogs,
by his own dogs.
It was really poetic. Yeah,
it was so poetic.
Well, part of me is very satisfied with his death. Another part of me is just, I don't like that Sansa was the one to do it. I mean, yeah, part of me really likes that she was the one to do it, but it just seems like very much not her. You know what I mean?
Really?
Yeah, not like book Sansa anyway. I think book Sansa have given it a trial.
Yeah, I think that's my gripe with it, but
I do think Ramsay will die, but maybe it will be some other twist so that he Sansa just releases his dogs or something.
I think her speech was definitely foreshadowing, the whole they're loyal beasts and they're starving, no beast is loyal when they're starving kind of thing. I feel like that, especially with the whole fact that food and the lack thereof was such a big part of season 7. I really think that's going to come back to show,
yeah.
So I think that definitely was a big thing.
The thing which I thought was would have just made it really poetic, and therefore, which is probably why they didn't do it, is if they'd release Ramsay for a hunt. So right, you get to go. If you make it to the Wolf's Wood, then we'll turn back.
Oh Good luck. That would have been nice.
Or even just let him go in the Wolf's Wood, and then get Nymeria and her posse to come and hunt him down.
All right. Well, I guess I'll talk about my next satisfying death.
Yes. Yeah. I've taken up too much of the time already.
Never, Howie. I never get tired of listening to your manly Howie voice. Another person who I don't feel like gets enough credit on the satisfying death part is Meryn Trant, because I was so happy when Arya whipped her little faceless ladiness and stabbed that man's eyes out. That was some badass shit.
Yes.
And he deserved every moment of it. Shit was fucked up.
He deserved a longer, more difficult one where maybe she blinded him and then let him, came back to him a day later, a week later, just something rather than just. It was over too quick.
A very fair point there, and I support that, Howie, because that man was nasty. And then the fact that he added in right at the end of his nastiness that not only is he a horrible person who was helped murder Ned and was just generally terrible and beat the shit out of Sansa all the time and all this, that, and the other, but he was also a pedophile. He ticked every box on the terrible person award. And I was so glad to watch Arya kill his ass. It was great. I fully support. So,
speaking of that, Walder Frey.
Oh yeah,
with some good old Frey pie too.
Did we mention Tywin Lannister as a satisfying death?
Oh yes.
Shitty father dying a shitty death.
On the shitter. Yes, that's definitely the best one.
I think the only way I would have liked Tywin's death more is if Tyrion had somehow shot the arrow through himself so it killed both of them in one blow. I don't know how that would have worked, like, but I would have appreciated.
Maybe you would have put the crossbow to the side and tried to leap up and punch Tywin, and then the catch releases and ching. Yeah.
Yeah, he could have just like not killed Shay and just like been like, Shay, look, one last thing I need you to do, just shoot me and my dad with one arrow. So.
Joffrey was quite a satisfying death too, but it's weird because he's not actually like there actually are enough worse people that he is actually not on my top 3 satisfying deaths. Like he's in the top 5, but compared to, like, say, for Meryn Trant and Ramsay and Tywin, wow.
Like, he didn't put any forethought into being awful. He just was. And the only good thing about Joffrey was that boy's style. Because, man, that boy knew how to dress. That is the one thing I missed when he died, is fashion left Westeros.
Such a good actor, What's his name again? Who played Joffrey? He was so good.
Jack Gleeson. Yeah, I went back and I was doing the Batman recap, and I didn't realize he was in.
Oh,
he was that tiny little kid. When they got that psychotropic release through Gotham, he's like, I think, wow, he's like actually a relatable and a human character who's just terrified. Okay, that's totally not my perception of him at all. I think Roose Bolton is not a satisfying death. It's a necessary death, and I was very pleased that it happened, but it wasn't satisfying at all.
I don't think it was satisfying because it was Ramsay who killed him, and Ramsay wasn't doing it because Roose was an awful person. He was doing it so that he wouldn't have any
competition.
Any competition, basically.
Which is like, this is a known thing. This is the thing which Roose is like. I think, is it in the series or in the show? He says, like, he's aware if he had a boy, then Ramsay would kill him. I think is that in the book or in the show? I can't remember.
I think it's in the book and the show that he.
Yeah, because he knows that Domeric was poisoned or had a, but he's pretty sure that Ramsay did it, and yet he was, I don't know, maybe thought, hey, I've just got us here. I've legitimized you. What more can you ask for? Oh wait, shit, I'm with. I've got a son of my. Oh fuck, that's not. Like, I thought there was a bit of a letdown. The fact that Roose is cold and creepy and definitely deserves to be roasted by his balls over a fire pit for all eternity. But it was a little. It just was a bit.
He should have died by leeches,
Well, yeah. thrown into a leech pit. I like that. Yeah. Did they make much of him, the Leech Lord, in the series? I don't remember.
Not at all, I think.
It was very disappointing.
Death by leeches. I might have to. That's a. Might write that one down. What other vicious? Sorry, vicious. Satisfying. The Mutineers at Castle Black. I liked seeing Thorne finally get there, but I thought it was a bit too cold.
It's like that Jon hanged Ollie, so I was not that satisfied with the death of the Mutineers. Alistair Thorne had a good line at the end, that was really, and he was a great actor anyway. So, but I really thought that the introduction of Ollie and then killing Ollie off by hanging when he was just a boy, that really killed it for me. The joy of Thorne being killed. Yeah.
You know who I had a satisfying death moment with? Peter.
Yeah.
When Baelish died, I popped bottles.
Yeah.
Man, that was the best moment in my life. That was better than orgasming when he died. It was so wonderful. Sometimes I watch it just to have a better day. You know what? I'm kind of I was just going on and on again over how I enjoyed his death. I could not tell you enough.
The only complaint I have with Littlefinger's death is that it was too late. He should have died much earlier.
I mean, I accept that criticism because it's true, but I just, as soon as he was dead though, I was just this could have come earlier, but it still tastes real sweet right now.
He was killed by his own dagger, which is a great imagery because, he likes the dagger the bag, and the dagger's in the dark, and he is killed by a dagger.
For me, it was all ruined by the whole Winterfell plot. It was just kind of like, the death was great, but the lead up was just like ridiculous and hacked.
It was, Sansa should have gotten Brienne to gut him when she met him in season 6.
That would have been nice.
It would have been nice.
She could have killed him after the Battle of the Bastards. You got your troops. Now I don't need you any longer. Bye, Lord Baelish.
I mean, yes, I do understand that. I do like that he got the trial, though.
Mm-hmm.
And I do like that she waited until she could give him a trial. And to be honest, I like that she waited till after Jon was gone, because I like that it was Sansa killing him. Like, it wasn't, it was Sansa, Arya, and Bran. But really, it truly was Sansa and Sansa's choice. And I feel like if Jon was there for it, it would have, the credit for it and like everything would have gone more to Jon than her. And I love Jon, but he doesn't deserve that. That's Sansa's person to take out. I was still pleased with the way they did it. I think they could have done the leading up to his death better. I feel like they could have shown us more how Sansa and Arya were plotting together against him.
So what else do you have? Any other satisfying deaths people can think about?
I don't know. For me, some of the deaths have been, either a letdown in the show or in the books. They've just been so brutal that it's just like, I can't find satisfaction in it. It's kind of like with Theon's torture. It's like, I wanted him dead. I wanted him punished for what he did to the Starks, but it's taken it a bit too far.
Yeah, well, that's what he does. GR gives you what you want, and you realize, I didn't want that.
Yeah.
Be careful.
Yeah, be careful what you wish for, because you might get it. Yeah. As much as I kind of the way that happened, I thought Alaricen got a comeuppance for being pretty much batshit. For deciding, you know what, nothing's happening, so I'm going to kill my paramour's brother and his entire family. Woohoo! Because let's get some of that shit happening. I thought that was a satisfying comeuppance for that. Yes, it was pretty horrific to be trapped with your daughter who's been poisoned, just going to watch her die in front of you. But I thought that was it's weird that there's like one of the few aspects of like proper retribution that
where you get what you're given.
Whereas everyone else seems to. I mean, Ramsay is the other alternative to that. He definitely got what he deserved. But in general, people, the bad guys, don't get justice, and the good guys, get slaughtered.
I'm gonna hop off of that one. And I'm going to go into the people who need to die, because I feel like that was a great lead into. And speaking of that, I'm going to start off with main asshole number 1, Tyrion. Because he needs to get what he has given tenfold. Because, that man is a pedophile rapist, horrible person. And I hate how the show has whitewashed him to a point where people actually think he's a good guy, and they're like, no, Tyrion deserves to live. No.
He needs to die horribly.
Not in the middle of the year. He needs to die screaming. Like, that is a bad man. Like, it's just like, and he only gets worse throughout the entire series. And so it's just like, just everything he's done, he deserves to die. And he deserves to die in a terrible, horrible, painful way. And
sounds like the cat choir agrees with you.
He's just an awful person. But all pedophiles in A Song of Ice and Fire should die. So that's that on that. And then another, I don't know if it's like a person who needs to die, because they're not people. But definitely the dragons. Can't wait for them to die.
So and of course Cersei has to die.
Oh yeah, she's definitely going to die, and she definitely deserves to die. Am I going to be sad about it still? Yes, because she's just such a badass bitch. Like, I just love how she fully embraces her crazy psycho bitch self.
Okay, and of course Dany has to die.
Before or after she realizes that Jon never loved her, and
after.
Yeah. And this family is a loving family that actually looks after each other rather than tries to.
I would like her to die just moments after she realizes that she lost all, and then maybe realize all the times where she took the wrong turn, when she decided that
she needs to see herself fail before she dies. Otherwise, it's just kind of like a letdown, narratively.
Thank you for listening to this episode of The Pod and the North. Our conversation about series and events will be delayed, but we hope you'll still join us next time for a special and hopefully fun episode. Until then, kitties, remember it's a scary and sometimes vicious fandom out there, so be kind to yourselves and each other.